All right, hello everybody. So we are Kritfayle. I am Emily, and I'm here with Ghost, and we have some very special guests from Battlelords of the 23rd century here to talk to us about a couple things, including an upcoming Kickstarter. So, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Tony O with 23rd Century Productions, and we create Battlelords.
Hello,
And
I'm David Sirico, and I've got the moniker CDO because I do a lot of the editing and I'm OCD, but I put it in proper alphabetical order. CDO because that's the way it should be.
I'm Kurt. They nicknamed me the Viking because of the group. I'm the only one over 6 foot tall, and that whole pasty white background of Scandinavia, and so that kind of leads into it. Plus, I tend to lead with my face when they're punching. So,
So if you didn't know what
Thank you.
Battlelords was, what is Battlelords of the 23rd century, as we introed it when we played it?
We like to call it playing expendable corporate mercenaries in a galaxy of war. Um, you're not limited to mercenaries by any means. You can also be pirates and spies and bounty hunters, whatever uh, occupation you like. But the general concept is that you're always over-equipped, under-trained, and considered expendable by your boss, who's usually a jerk.
So much like normal corporate life.
Yes,
Just more space battles.
with bigger guns.
Yes,
Yes.
And more fatalities.
true.
and multiple
Probably.
species.
Yep, that as well.
This is different.
So Battlelords has been around for a while. You're in the fourth edition, is it?
We're on seventh.
Oh, seven.
Yeah.
Okay.
You missed
Next
three.
year,
I did.
next year will be our 35th year. It's, for Battlelords, so be a big year for us.
And the current, how far back compatible are the books if people picked up earlier ones if they found them?
Uh, Dave, I'll let you handle this. You just answered this question for someone.
Yep.
Ooh.
So I like to tell people we're pretty consistent. So by contrast, D&D First Edition and let's just go with 3.0, substantially different.
Yep.
Some things are similar enough, but you really work to really bring things across. There are some tweaks you need to do for weapons and armor. Some playable species would fit as nicely in from a game balance perspective, but certainly will be playable. Matrices is really kind of the thing where it gets a bit different because we went through and realized, wow, no wonder everyone uses this one right here. It's a spell-like thing, and this one's really effective. So maybe we should make that a little more higher level because, yeah, people are abusing that one, and it's probably OP. It was. So that's kind of the differences I would say. So you could bring a character across; it wouldn't be that hard.
And there's a lot of.
Editions,
Oh, sorry, go for it.
I was gonna say, editions 1 through 6 are essentially identical. The only
Okay.
jump is in 7th edition where we streamline things.
Mm.
The big jump.
Now, one thing I noticed was when I played, and we're talking about classic here, when
Mm.
we did in the 80s a lot of more rules heavy games, they tended to be very role play light because there was so much crunch going on with the rules. I can't remember the game, but there was a military one. It literally took an hour to do a round. You'd fire, you had about 50 rolls to work out where that bullet went and what it did when it arrived at its destination. This became a very, very serious sort of thing where there was no character stuff happening really at all outside of the rules. Battlelords, when we played, does have a level of crunch, but it also kept a level of fun and silliness and
Levity.
levity. How did you get that balance between the sort of more heavier rules, but making sure it was fun at its core?
This will be the perfect segue to our new book. um, the I think the reason we keep it kind of fun and is was it I'm trying to remember the name. We had a reviewer who described it the glorious excess of Battlelords, and that's an apt description. And when you combine that glorious excess with the fact that things will inevitably go off the rails, it leads to a lot of fun. which is why our scenario book was called Charlie Foxtrot. And for anybody in your audience with a military background, they will understand that that's a military term for a really big screw up.
Yep. So what is the new book? It's an adventure book this time? Is that correct?
Yeah, we are taking Charlie Foxtrot, which is the Battleords Adventure Compendium that we already have for classic Battleords, and we are porting it over to Savage Worlds, Savage Battleords. So it'll be available for people who like Savage Worlds. It'll be available for people who like Savage Battleords. And it'll have most of the same adventures. We'll have some new ones in there, some new maps that weren't in the classic version.
Okay.
We are getting ready to kickstart that one soon.
That's awesome. What's your, maybe not the new ones, because those would be new and people wouldn't know them yet, but what's your favorite adventure from the classic Charlie Foxtrot?
I think I know what Dave's. Dave, what's yours?
It's really hard to pick just one. It's sort of like, which of your children is your favorite?
Oh,
Oh, I know. I know what one mine is.
you do?
One's more annoying than
Oh.
the other.
The hardest part about it was we basically took it and we tried to make it so Battlelords could show you that you just didn't have to play mercenaries. You could play pirates. You could play colony inspectors. You could play soldiers. You could do all these other things with it if you wanted to. Pest control, that kind of thing. So we kind of took all these different aspects of it and said, here's a spy mission. This is how it runs, that kind of stuff. So it was kind of, for us, it was kind of a way to showcase all of that. So it kind of depends on more what you like and at that moment, what you're particular going for. But yeah, we all have our favorites on it. So
Kurt probably left out his favorite, which is you can also play 4 higher criminals. And there's a scenario in there where you're doing a prison train break on a hostile planet, and he likes running.
Yeah,
well,
that one's
it's exciting.
It's never boring. It rarely ends the same way. The espionage one also never boring. Doesn't usually end the same way. The train one almost all. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone try not to do combat because it just kind of screams, let's go into combat. The espionage one can be done without any combat.
Okay.
And it is a rare group that does that because usually the first reaction somebody has when something goes sideways, they're like, oh crap, all right. And then you're like, you could have just, never mind.
You
Just
didn't need
go
to
with
do
it.
that. Okay. All right. You're shooting everyone. All right.
I think the one we did, it was meant to be pest control, and we turned it into piracy.
We might have.
See, that's pretty typical for Battleords.
Yeah. We sort of
Yep.
robbed
We did end up stealing some things we didn't need to, as I recall.
and blamed it on the dead pirates.
Yeah.
The ones that did actually show up. And then we killed them, and then when where's all the jewels? We were like, well, the ship was leaving. I'm assuming they took it.
Didn't see him. No clue.
Very Battleords, yes.
Yep.
The good,
It's all
the
about
good
the
teams,
salvage.
yeah, the good teams are the ones who, when the plan does go off the rails, that they're able to adapt and continue to prevail, because it will go off the rails.
Yeah,
and
ours
that's
did.
half the fun.
Yeah, ours did.
Certainly. It seems that that's sort of expected in regards to Battlelords. Going off the rails is a feature, not a bug.
Yes.
Yes.
So if
Very
someone
good.
hasn't experienced it before, what should they expect? If because a lot of people have played D&D, and then after a while, someone might say, "Hey, I've bought this, or I've just bought this PDF, and let's play Battlelords." What would your advice be to someone who, not necessarily has come from D&D, but just has sat down and this is the first time, like the GM's held up the book? What should they expect to make their experience with the game more fun?
If they bring in certain concepts from I would say classic D&D, things will probably not go well from them. One of the core concepts of Battlelords is that you have all of these species who really don't like each other and don't get along. Some of them have even been at war with each other in the past. But when you're in a soldier environment or a mercenary team environment, one of the themes is overcoming that. We call it speciesism or racism. overcoming that speciesism and cooperating. Because if you're not watching your buddy's back, nobody's making it out alive. You can't really do the "I'm a thief, I'm going to backstab the party and run off with the goods," because you're all going to get overrun by the arachnid hordes when they come pouring into that trench if you don't cooperate.
You're almost always outnumbered, and if you're not helping your buddy survive, then you're just going to get cut down.
I remember that was a long part of character creation when we did it, was
Yep.
working out how much everyone hated each other.
Yep.
Because it was going through like, okay, no, I don't like you, not at all, but okay, we're good, and I'm fairly ambivalent about you. All right, got it. It was very fun character creation.
I have a
One of the
feeling. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the coolest things about the character creation is one of 2 games that I've played that really spend a bit of time trying to flesh out the character a bit for you to give you some quirks. So you may have a concept in mind as you're going into this. One of the pieces I call it is just have a concept in mind and be ready to adapt, because the fickle figure of fate tables throw you some curveballs.
yeah.
Like you have an idea what you want to do, and all of a sudden you're a narcoleptic. We should.
Those were very fun,
Oh.
rolling on. Oh dear. Yeah, I think I ended up with a bounty on my head or something like that, but
I saved a family from a car crash and still was disliked.
yes, you were, because you got something like people thought you were horribly repulsive and nobody even liked to be in the same room as you, but you were also a hero.
Yeah.
Got a good moral character,
Yeah.
which is a rarity in Battlelords.
Yes.
Which is why
But
I
no
was
one
the
liked
sniper. But I also remember
Oh.
SVG disliking a character that their races didn't, because he didn't want to be left out, as everybody else had races that didn't like each other.
Yes.
So he was like, no, I
Oh yeah,
dislike
'cause
you.
didn't he pick someone that it was like, no, he's pretty much chill with everyone,
Yeah.
but he's like, no,
I'm going to go against the grain.
I will hate you. Yeah, no, I think that is one thing that is very cool in regards to the character creation, especially. It definitely gives you stuff to work with for people who maybe don't go into character creation with a lot of ideas of what they already want to do. That is definitely going to give you some things to play with as well.
I like that as a counterbalance, because when a game can be like Classic, which has more of those rules, people can easily focus on what's my abilities going to be, what's going to be my skills going to be, how am I going to make all of this, not min-maxing, but they'll get focused on that mechanic side, as this is all the stuff my character can do, and they sometimes forget the character. So having that life path role is adding that stuff, even if it's not necessarily subconsciously, but it's sort of giving them that a little bit of that sort of like, yeah, but you also got this that's just character, not mechanic, and then there's this, and that's character, not mechanic. So I found it a good counterbalance sort of thing to the creation.
One
And
of
it
the
helps.
things that
Go
I
ahead.
usually tell people is look at what other skill sets your other players have, because if nobody takes first aid when you go down on the battlefield, if nobody takes driving, if you go down on the battlefield, you got to split up and make sure everybody has a couple of those core skills. So even if you're not doing it all yourself, somebody else is helping you out, because invariably in this game somebody's going down. And getting them back up or getting them out of there is a big portion of that. And even if you don't like them, you got to get them out and trust that they'll get them out, unless they're Fentari, of course. So spread the skills around, start slow, and work your way up.
Yeah. And that makes sense for the setting as well, because I assume any real mercenary group would also wish to have a wide range of helpful skills. So
And in one of the expansions, it's PDF or print on demand. It's got different medals, and one of the medals you can come up with is the Black Band of Doom. If you get put down in a fight, most sentient beings don't get back up and get back into the battle. But for those who do and get put down again, we have the Black Band of Doom just for you.
Awarded posthumously?
Well, sometimes it depends. Either way, it could be both.
Because just because you died doesn't mean you're not coming back.
True.
So
Yeah, we like to say it's not a question of if you die or when you die. It's how often and how much can you afford to do this.
right. So as you've got the two game lines, which would you suggest people chose based on what they typically like? Because if they go into a store and they've got both, that can be a little confusing if they were unaware of the differences.
If you're a fan of Savage Worlds already, or you played Savage Worlds already, or you just like the fast and furious play style, Savage Battlelords still maintains that. We add a little bit of complexity on top, but it's still Savage Worlds. If you're looking for a game that rewards you, it's a little more gritty and rewards you for digging into those mechanics and finding those sort of hidden synchronicities of this works well with this, and a little more customization in terms of your gear. Classic is probably the way to go. It's just your play preference.
And stuff. I mean, literally, classic Battlelords has a ton of stuff, just pages and pages and pages of stuff. Savage Worlds uses a smaller dice system in that, so there's not as much we can do with it. So we only were able to port some of the stuff over to it. So and afterwards, because we were prolific at this, but after the initial book that came out, we had to put a whole new book out with all the weapons and equipment that we couldn't fit into the core rule book. Fully armored.
And there's still weapon systems people are asking about that we haven't been able to bring in because we had a limit on page count in that too. So it's kind of like, well, okay, this is all we have so far.
Was it very hard sort of choosing what made the cut and what didn't?
You should have seen us on the first book. We realized our page count was somewhere around 800, and we're like, we have to get it down. No one's going to want a 10-pound book. So we feel pretty proud of getting it to a mere 5.5 pounds. This was success for us, but it was painful. Like, there were some things where like, yeah, we can do this, and that got us like 50 pages or 100 pages, and then they were like, okay, the easy stuff's over. It's like, okay, let's get rid of this whole weapon system.
Oh no!
And okay, instead of 20 here, we'll go down to 10. Oh, well, now 8, now 6. Okay, we can stop there. Okay.
Yeah, first couple hundred pages were easy to cut. We knew what we really didn't need, but after that, it was like pulling teeth.
Oh no!
I think one of the strengths has been, like when I looked at Traveller, there was that versatility of a lot of games. Although there's usually players being creative and GMs being creative, they find a lot of ways to make what might just seem to be a dungeon crawl not become a dungeon crawl. But Traveller did a whole bunch of stuff initially in like one of those old school ones where it's like, yeah, you can be merchants and pirates and like you said, and then in some ways Battlelords does that as well. Is there a challenge when you go to do a new book to just with something that would be easier by focusing just on one thing, but is it hard sometimes to go, well, it'd be nice to have a merchant guide with a whole bunch of merchant ships and merchant rules and merchant guilds and just merchant things, but then people will be saying, but we want more merc stuff, or why can't we have Guns of the Galaxy Volume 27? And is it hard to know what to do and what to release and what to focus on?
Battlelords, well, the open system has always been, or the open setting has always been a little difficult for people to start because you can literally do anything, and we've had people play, rock stars, and so we've kind of had to drill it down to the mercenary soldiers, pirates, and spies, just so we could give them some guidance on, look, you can do this or this, and get some content in there for those. But as time goes on, we are sort of drilling more and more into that niche more specifically. But the Battlelords fans always want more guns and more mercenaries. Dave's working on a project now, though, that might appeal to people who want a little of both.
The Orion's Guide? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the things we're starting to do is look at how well people find the species-specific guides that really try to dig into their background a little bit more, flesh them out even further. Because in the book, again, we had to cut down a whole bunch of pages. One of the things that had to go was we had rather lengthy sections for each of them. Not that they're short now, but they're shorter than they were. And so it's like, how do we bring some of that back out? How do we look at some of their art, what drives them as a species, what has driven their culture, what has got them to where they're at, what are some key things. So when we look at the Orions, they were very mercantile originally. The Fentari came in, and now we're looking at, well, how did that shift things? And for those who aren't familiar with Fentari believe in survival of the fittest to the extreme. If your boss suddenly disappears and you're the most qualified for the job to replace him temporarily, then you're just like in charge until he comes back or she or whatever. It's fine. Don't worry about them because I'm in charge now. We'll figure it out when they get here. And so they twisted a little bit from a mercantilist thing to you know what? Syndicracy works. Let's have syndicates running everything. And all of a sudden, the Fentari realized that, wait, we don't trust these as much as we thought we could. We thought they were predictable. They aren't. And so we start to get into kind of the depths of what are some of these key syndicates? How do they operate? What are their spheres of influence? What is their above board activity? What are as the front for their organization? And what are the things they're doing under the covers that you may or may not know that they're doing? And so giving really some depth if people want to really progress in that way with their character concept, then now all of a sudden they can get tied into all of that. And, well, there's always somebody after somebody else when you get into that level. So it comes with some rubs.
Because I remember one group I played with, it was an older game. They wanted to play merchants, but they were frustrated with the rules because it's still only focused on combat. When the GM did it was more about avoiding pirates and stuff, and they were like, no, but the setting itself has all this room for just someone wants to buy something. They almost want it to be Ferengi in a way. It's like there's stuff that you can buy and stuff you could sell, and there has to be the ways of navigating the bureaucracy, and they actually were interested in doing that. And the rules in that game, I can't remember what it was, but didn't really, although it was like the merchant guide, didn't really help them in that way. And when we looked at Battlelords the first time, I was like, I could see I thought this might appeal to them, that you could actually do the merchant if you really wanted to, and not actually have lots of combat if you wanted to, because there's all these different planets to go to, and the syndicates, like you said, and just all these different places and things and races, and someone would want something somewhere, and
we even list the monthly maintenance costs and lease fees for the spaceships, so you could figure out what your overhead was.
Yeah. You could do all the accounting for real if you wanted.
Yeah. And I've known players that love that. That's what they want. They want that sort of like their grit and their crunch. They wanted it in, I want to own a ship. What's it like to own a merchant ship in this galaxy and having to survive both financially as well as physically, and space like Alien. The one thing I liked about Alien, the RPG, when it came out, wasn't so much the xenomorph. The first thing in it's like, yeah, they're really dangerous and you're screwed if you meet them. But your enemy in this game is space. It's the biggest, deadliest problem you're gonna have. And there's no auto car place you can just call when your ship breaks down in the middle of nowhere and hope they're just going to come and change your tire, kind of thing. If you go down out there, you could well be screwed.
Yep.
Talking about running ships, actually, one of the games that I ran for a while, the group ended up working their way into having a cruise line and kind of going down that path. And it's kind of like, I think we're going to retire this game because I really don't know where to take this any further. We had a few things and kind of had the merchant marine thing going on, and they were doing mostly cruise line stuff, but then having to fight things off. And after a while, it's kind of like, okay, there's only so many pirate attacks you can do before this becomes a bit of a rut. And yeah.
They start franchising out their cruise ships.
Well, I think one of our other GMs would have an idea of what to do in it. I think we'd have the Love Boat again. It would be back.
Yep.
It's a running gag in the One Ring. Every time it becomes the One Ring. So if you'd had cruise lines, I think we know what Adam would do in Battlelords.
We might.
And they're
always exciting and new.
Exactly. So how big is this Savage Worlds book going to be? And is it hardcover, softcover? Is that a stretch goal? Is there stretch goals?
There are stretch goals. All our books are hardcover. I don't think we've ever, for 7th edition and going forward, and that includes Classic and Savage, I don't think we've ever done a softcover. yet, other than maybe the quick start rules. So it will be hardcover. It's probably going to be at least 140 pages. There are stretch goals. We have Battlelords themed dice. We
Oh,
have
cool.
some maps. We know Savage Worlds players love battle maps,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got some maps. I just got one commissioned today, so we're having one of our artists work on it, and he's working on it as we speak.
Nice.
And all the books I've seen have been very art heavy. Is this the same?
Yes, yeah. I think Kurt. How would you class? Kurt does all the layout, so he probably counts art more than the rest of us. What would you say on Charlie Foxtrot?
Um, well, there's pretty much every section has several pieces, the bad guys, the good guys, and the title page. And then usually whenever I have a spot that I need to make a little bit wider, a little bit smaller, or cover up an area, I find some random art and throw it in there. So anything space-based, kind of, touch it on the background, just kind of give them the feel.
How important was having all that art? Because some games are very art heavy and others are pretty art light. And I fully understand usually that's to do with cost as well as space, because art is one of the biggest expenses you can have. But it does seem to be one of the biggest things players and GMs seem to like when there's
Mm.
art.
Certainly for the core rules, it was one of the things I tell people I wanted that seventh edition classic core rule book to be as much art book as role playing game. I wanted somebody to be able to set it on their coffee table and somebody else to look at it and go, oh, that's cool, and just pick it up and start flipping through it. So much so that we put the interior art preview PDF for free on Drive Through RPG, so people can download it and see the amount and the quality of art that's in that book.
And
Yeah, and all the
we did
art's in
print
the
off.
Savage. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say we did print off some high quality copies around when we were getting ready to shop it around for distribution and that kind of stuff, and we're literally handing it to like Studio Two, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and then he opened it. He's like, "Yeah, let's go talk to my business manager because I'm not allowed to make decisions. This is nice." So literally, he's literally stopping talking while he's flipping through it as he's looking at it. So yeah, that was a nice experience to have.
Good. Yeah, I'd say the art definitely stands out as well. I mean, when we were first playing it, just looking through how much stuff was illustrated and how cool it was definitely, I think, one of the main takeaways we had when we first looked at it, actually. So, yeah, I think it's really good.
I always point out that in all of the gaming awards, no matter which award it is, we've still never won an award for interior or cover art.
Oh,
Which does seem strange to me. Because I mean, one thing I've noticed with players over the years, especially, I mean GMs too, but really players, when it comes to certain things with gear and ships, they will not always go to the stats first. It's, does this look cool? And if the ship looks crap, they don't care about the stats. They're like, I'm not flying around the galaxy in something that looks like that. No. So having, especially with something that can be important, and I've noticed with some of the other games, Star Wars started to do it. They have a lot of art, but at the same time, when it got to the gear sections, they sometimes didn't. And when it was obviously something really well known from the franchise, you could just go, Star Destroyer. Yeah, okay, most people that are into it instantly know. But when they started doing a lot of the other stuff, they didn't have any art for it at all. And that would be, I found players going, what does this look like? And they'd have to start Googling it, which was okay because they could usually find it, but not always. And certainly with something that is a different kind of IP, like Battlelords is, they don't have that same sort of knowledge base wikis out there that they could just search. Having that stuff in there, I found really, really cool because they can go, what does that ship look like? It's on page 57. I go, oh, okay. And that was a big part of what when we were choosing guns and stuff, it wasn't just stats. It was like, what does that look like? What does that look like? No, that's too bulky. I'm not carrying that.
Just reminds me of how it's in video games. I will not use armor even if it's better if it looks bad.
Right.
It's the same in this.
You gotta look cool.
I know. Uh,
Ken spent ages choosing the right minigun for like his heavy
did.
weapon. Longer
did.
than anyone, because he took the great big guy, he could carry the minigun, and he was looking at all the heavy weapons. I think he was really tempted with one of the rocket launchers or something, but he was just a little concerned with splash damage. But when I say a little concerned, I do mean only a little
I
concerned.
think maybe we were more concerned with splash damage.
We have a player who runs games with us at Gen Con, and his favorite thing is one of our other GMs usually is a player in his game, and he's done this to him continuously. He's like, "You're wearing armor, right?" It's Battlelords. Everyone has armor.
Yeah.
And the guy Keith, he's like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "No, no, no, no." And at which point he'll proceed to spray the room with the machine gun. And he's like, "That's what your armor's for." So some people have a little less concern for splash damage, or in this case, total disregard.
Yeah, we were a bit concerned as we knew we had to help it was a liner, a star liner, and so there was some discussion about the idea of splash damage and passengers.
Civilians
Yeah.
and yeah.
Acceptable casualty.
Yeah, do we
amount.
get paid less if we kill them all?
Oh dear.
Well, we didn't mean
Yeah.
to.
It wasn't me that killed them. It was the vacuum of space
Exactly.
when the hole in
Yeah.
the hall opened up.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about how the hole to the vacuum in space happened. That's not important.
Your liner should have been stronger.
Sure.
Come on.
I did notice with the art, there were certain times when I was flicking through that I was like, oh, this is really reminding me of this really cool 80s series, the Terran Trade Authority series of books, which had like Space Wreck and Starliner and
Great space battles.
Yeah, Stuart Crowley, I think they were. Where he just took all these, although with those he just got commissioned and that whatever art he could get, and then turned it into this amazing sort of setting that all started to interconnect. And some of the shots in Battlelords, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of something that would have appeared in those books, which as a kid especially, they were my favorite books on my shelf when I had them.
Yeah, mine too, and they were inspiration for me getting into science fiction. And I'm kind of glad somebody noticed the correlation there. So that was the same kind of feel I wanted to bring to a lot of the space art, spaceship art, because yeah, I grew up with those books as a kid, and they were very inspirational for me. And that's the kind of, like I said, when we wanted to be a coffee table art book, that's what we were looking for.
Yeah, especially some of the ship shots were for sure reminded me.
Somebody at some point did make a role-playing game for Terran Trade Authority. Yeah, it's out there. I've got a copy on my shelf in the basement. I haven't had a chance to flip through it yet, but it exists.
In a way, I'm surprised it hasn't. But in another way, there's Battlelords, which isn't the same, but in its heart, there's a lot of similarities. But certainly look it up if people haven't. I don't think they're not in print anymore, but they are great books if you can find them.
That's one thing we did notice at the con. A lot of the people were picking up and looking at it, and they'd find the spaceships or want to know, what do your spaceships look like? And we'd flip it over. And it was really kind of amazing how people, we have this cutter that's, it looks like a giant crab, full with thrusters and these big shears. It's a salvage ship. And everybody is like, wow. A crab in space. It's a spaceship crab. They're like, look at those. Those are like for bringing in the stuff, right? That's so you can. And we're like, yeah. They're like, this is awesome. Oh, when you got the deck plans and everybody's above it, so it's all, They were like, wow, this is really thought out. We like this. That kind of stuff just it was tickling us because I mean, to hear them get that excited about just seeing one spaceship
Right.
set up, and we're like, yeah, there's multiple of these.
Yeah, you're like, you haven't seen anything yet.
Exactly. Keep
There's a
flipping.
spaceship with a boardwalk and a beach and its personal wave pool that opens to the stars. So you can watch the nebula fly by as you're luxuriating into the warm tropical waters of insert your favorite planet here. For a cool, if you have to ask, you can't afford it,
Right.
price.
Very true.
And I did notice that it was reasonably, I thought out when I did look at the deck plans, because sometimes that's not always true. It's like they've got a design, but they've got to fit enough rooms and stuff in, and it happens. But if you went, why is that there? It doesn't really make sense if you looked at even a nautical ship, whether it be a civilian one or a military one, why they put rooms where they are. Sometimes, yes, it's going to be a space constraint, but otherwise it's going to be, there's a reason that you put the armory here or the ammo here, and how it's going to be connected to the loaders, and where that's connected to where the missiles are and where the launchers are, and that exists. When I was looking, it's like, okay, it makes sense. Like you said, with the stuff above it makes sense for a lot of them. It wasn't just like, okay, yeah, we've got the shape, but now we're just going to put some rooms, and off you go.
We did that. One of the first deck plan artists we had designed the interiors of the ship like a dungeon. There's just corridors and rooms and all this dead space. And Dave's already shaking his head. We were like, no.
Not this,
And
not
so
that.
after that, Dave basically sketched out all of the ship interiors on graph paper and then gave them to the artist and said, make it pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
Just where the
So
bathroom is.
one of the things that really drives it, so you kind of called attention to it. These craft have to go through the atmosphere. That means because of just the realities of aerodynamics, they're going to tend to be long and thin, maybe somewhat flaring out as they go, but they're going to be pretty constrained by the nature of aerodynamics. Other than the king crab, the crab thing, which it doesn't care, is like, I'm just going to plow through it. I'm not going to go fast. It's going to take me forever, but I don't care. I'll get out there eventually if I don't fall apart. If anyway, so really trying to in an airliner, right? You can see from the front to the back if they wanted to chop it up into sections for first class and private, sections of first class and all that kind of thing. It's still going to have that same shape. Everything's going to be in that line. Well, it doesn't make sense to have things kind of sticking off in weird directions because you don't have that on a ship, you don't have that on a plane, you don't have that on a sub. It doesn't work. So that's it's CDO. I don't like it. We're not doing that. Sorry. Here, make it look like this. Make it pretty, but look this layout.
Was it
And
important to
sometimes
make
we'll be like, you
sorry.
play around with this space a little bit, but the rest, that order.
Like, was it important to consider where the holds were in that? For the ships, did it matter in space the same way as displacement does, or that was of lesser concern?
It's less about that. It's more functional use. Like, where would we put the hold? How is this going to be used? It's going to be going onto the surface and off the surface for a turtle freighter. So they're going to land. If they go into the surface, you want to truck things out the one side and have it all from there. The crab one was kind of obvious. Like, we want to have these arms that are just shoving things in. So we'll work everything around them. So there's a section here that's reserved for the controls that make these things do the stuff they do. There's this bubble over the top with the transparent floor so they can even just see all the way through as they're shoving things in. And then that led to, well, then that means we've got to have double staircases going up there. So now you have this weird situation where in a combat, you may find yourself fighting your way, having people fighting into the hold. They snuck in the other side. They go over the top and come in from behind you. So you've got these weird ways you can get outflanked that you don't even think about because it's 3 dimensions. So it has some fun things there. So all of those ships have that thought process. Like, how would this ship be used? What would you put where? The rescue cutter, you have your military format, you've got your bridge, your important stuff up front, your armory for that kind of section. Then you go back to the regular quarters for that, and then after that, you're the medical quarters and the emergency cryotubes. So as you take a stricken ship, shove people into these things into sleep, because you just don't want to have to deal with the screaming and the everything else and feeding and all that. Just we're going to stick you in sleep for a little bit. When you come back awake, it'll all be fine.
I assume every ship is going to get boarded at some point or used for a boarding action. So I just look, where's the armory? Where's the bridge? Where's the brig? Where's the med bay? And I kind of see if I need to get to any of those, how am I going to do it? Because that's usually the places people are going to want to go when things go to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, part of the theme we were also going for is kind of like Caribbean. Like you're remote. You talked about if you get a flat tire, metaphorically speaking, you're not going to just kind of roll to the side of the curb, walk a mile down the road, pick up a new one,
Yep.
come back. No, you are literally hours to days away from any help. If you're lucky, and if you're not lucky, could be weeks. So in the Caribbean, back in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, you had you had to figure out how to fix it. So ships are very important, and you really don't want to waste all that technology by blowing it out of the sky because now you've got nothing and maybe you've taken damage. So it encourages the boarding. I mean, not to say people can't decide I'm just going to blow it out of the sky. They can do that, but like, okay, but your ship's damaged. You need spares, and now you're gonna have problems. But okay, go for it. Blow it out of the sky. Wait. What do you mean problems? Well, you notice your engine's kind of starting to do this weird humming thing that it shouldn't be doing. What's that mean? Could be fine. Could be nothing.
Sure, it's fine.
It'll be fine.
Get the RAM ionization engineer to take a look at it. It'll be fine.
He just picked out a really big club.
Yeah. Thug hit
Just
with hammer, still makes
hit
any
it.
noise.
Hit it and it'll keep working for at least another week, right?
And do the different races have different ship aesthetics, or because the races are now sort of so interconnected when it comes to their trade and doing things, do they sort of share more of the technology and not a generic design, but a more sort of standardized one?
There are probably cosmetic aesthetics and maybe weapon preferences, but most of the ship manufacturers have adopted what we refer to as the Orion standard, or the floors of a house standard, where you've got multiple levels of the ship, and your engineering is all on one floor, and your habitation section is all one floor. So they interior wise are all going to be pretty much similar.
Yeah, I would say the main changes for that would be for the Eridani. The Eridani, having a very warlike approach, they have a need for a personal meditation area, so that you'll find on the Eridani cruiser that meditation area. They'll also have a need to practice, so they may have a firing range that they can extend out from the ship, so they can just knock off a few rounds out in space and shooting at little drone targets or what have you. So there'll be those kinds of touches that would make sense for an Eridani. But yeah, a lot of it's going to be pretty agnostic of species, just because you never know who's going to be on board.
Fair enough.
So when's the Kickstarter starting?
We've got the pre-launch page up and running now. We're just starting to do promotion, and everybody asks me that question, and I don't have a straight answer for it, because what we're doing this time is we're trying to just let it build until we get a number of followers we like, and then hit the launch button. But I know that Dave, who's our production deadline guy, is going to tell me to hit the button by October regardless. So sometime, before October is probably when it's launching.
All right. So coming soon.
Yes.
In
Slightly
the
undetermined.
future.
Yes.
But not the 23rd century. Not that long.
No, not the 20th.
And definitely not the future when you talk about fusion, which is the tech of the future, and it's still in the future. It's going to be sooner than that. Much, much sooner.
Very good.
And have you decided how long this Kickstarter is going to go for?
We've run almost all of ours for 30 days, and this one will probably be the same. It'll be a 1 month Kickstarter.
Okay.
And the
we might adjust. We might adjust the date a little if we launch it on the 1st, because I don't want it to end on Halloween.
Right.
But other than that, probably about 30 days.
Right. And the Savage World stuff is still in production, like available, so they're going to be able to pick up this and the core book. And what else is out for Savage World? I'm sure there's a lot for the classic, and the Savage World was coming. Is what's available for the Savage World variant?
We've got the Savage World's core rulebook. We've got the Carnage Companion, which I describe as more of everything: more guns, more armor, more gears. But it also has the vehicle rules in it. So that's some additional information. And then we've got the Alliance setting guide, which details the setting and also provides the spaceships, the spaceship combat rules, and all of the arachnids and their minions. And then we just released Uncle Ernie's ARM Summer Catalog.
Yep.
And Uncle Ernie is a nihilistic mad genius in the Battlelords universe who builds monsters for fun and profit, mostly fun. And that is compatible with both Classic and Savage Battlelords. It's the first book we've done like that. So Battlelords players in either system can pick it up. And it works great for just Savage Worlds games. If you're using the Sci-Fi Companion or the Supers Companion, there are some great critters in there as well.
Most famous of which is the sucks to be you. You run into it, it sucks to be you. And they have a rule in there for the Savage players. If it falls on you and it will squish you, you will be dead. Don't tell me where the rules say you can take this much damage. It doesn't matter. You're dead.
Instant kill.
I
Got it.
think the
It's
cover
kaiju
had
size.
a pretty big beastie on it from memory, but I could be thinking of something else.
Yeah, that's the sucks to be
It's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
knocking down
Yep.
skyscrapers and making its way
Yeah.
through this.
Threat level, it's really high. We really mean it.
Threat level, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Put your guns away. If you shoot it, it might notice you. Not a good thing.
It's not what you
Yeah.
want. Just leave. Just go.
Just take off, blast it from orbit.
Only way to be sure.
You'll just make
Exactly.
it mad, but at
Yeah.
least
At least
you're
you
Yeah,
can't
not-
get you.
firing range.
Yeah.
it can't get you. Yeah.
So it's the plan
The other
moving
thing we
forward
had
to release more and more for both lines of the game?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Everyone asks us if we're going to discontinue Classic every time we release a new Savage book, and the answer is no. Well, we're going to do both lines simultaneously.
As much as we can. There are some things where, from the Savage perspective, some of these things just don't quite fit as well with the feel of Savage. So there's a tendency to move away from lots of extra tables, and we don't really particularly prefer that for Classic as well. But in Classic, we're okay with it going a little bit down that path. We're trying to avoid. We've had a running joke. We want to make a Halfmaster version someday, where each weapon has its own specific malfunction rules and all these things, and it would be a ridiculous number of tables. But the entertainment value of the thought is really pretty high.
Yeah, I can picture for Classic Edition the Rollmaster, Space Master kind of book where you had energy attack table with energy criticals, and then you had plasma and plasma critical tables, and each one was different. And
Quit tempting him. He doesn't need the
Oh.
encouragement.
if you trusted your players,
Mm.
it did get faster because we did give each player whatever it was they were using. Like in Rollmaster, you're using a bow and a longsword, there's the table. And providing you trusted them, they handled the, I got 67, that's, a C critical and 4. When the GM's handling all of that, it definitely slowed down.
Too much to manage.
Yeah, but if you trust your players and you don't mind them doing that side of it, then in Classic, I don't think something like that would be a turn off for anyone.
If we did go that route, we'd have to get on something like Foundry or something to do it, because otherwise it'd just be too much to keep track of for everyone.
Yeah, I was going to
That's
say,
fair.
is there any VTT support? Is anyone picked up Battlelords to do on a VTT?
Funny you should mention that. We've actually got we call it our beta of Foundry. So it covers the basics of having a character sheet. You'd be able to do the things you need to do. You'd have to type everything in, but we're just trying to, kind of dip a toe in the water. And we also are working on the Savage one, which is a little easier because the Savage rule set already has something in
Yes.
Foundry, so we don't have to build everything.
Right.
So that's the problem on the Classic side. We're starting from scratch, so that's why we got a more bare bones version. But the Savage version, with all the stuff in there, and given that in Battlelords, it's in the Savage version, it's like 95% Savage, and then there's things that they didn't have a spell for this. So sometimes they're just like this spell, but parentheses, this kind of an effect. Oh, okay, that's not really that different. But then there are a few things that are very unique. The armor is different, so we've got some specific things, a little bit that we've added in that's new and different for the setting, which makes it a little more dangerous as well. It ups the power level a bit, which is one of the fun things for Savage players.
Ah.
We tell them.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. We tell this. That's one of the things I put in every version of every Savage Battlelords book we have, and it will be in Savage Charlie Foxtrot, that Kickstarter. Is we assume that everybody in the game is is wearing armor, even though you don't do that in a lot of other Savage Worlds games. If
Right.
you go in without armor, you need to adjust the threat level accordingly, or you'll be a thin red mist on the back of the wall.
Everyone will die
Right.
very quickly.
Because since
Yes.
COVID hit, a lot of people went online and haven't returned to the stores in the same way that they had before. A lot of those groups now just play from home, like they work from home. So a VTT is certainly a good one. I think Foundry's quite good. Certainly makes that easier. And with higher rule games, I think they really do that. They handle the maths behind the screen for the GM. I think that is a great thing where he can click a button and it does the maths and spits out the result. It doesn't lose any of what the game is, but makes it easier for the less mathematically inclined.
Yeah, me too.
You guys did fine with Classic. You're not less mathematically inclined.
Oh, well, that was only because Adam, who was our GM, pretty much did all the stuff for us.
All the math.
In that he would go, you need to do this, and then we would say, what am I rolling? And then he'd go, okay, well, actually, because you're doing this and you're aiming here and you're okay. He'd tell us exactly what dice we rolled and then exactly what happened. So
I would also say Ken was helpful there too.
That's fair.
Ken was an engineer. He loves his maths, so he and Adam together, I think, really made. For those of us that have a tendency, when I know someone's going to do it for me, we'll go like, when they say, "Do you understand that?" Sorry, what?
No.
Oh, okay. Roll D100, and you want to get under your skill plus this. Okay.
All right.
Now do you have it? Have what? Oh.
Our GM there was very helpful.
Yeah.
After a couple games, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
That is true.
Hit the
That
nail
is
on
true.
the head, where everything is roll percentiles, and if you roll under this number, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Although, in fairness to Emily, she did have COVID, I think, when we played that one. And the GM literally explained how to do one thing to the player in front in great detail, and she was next, and he went, "Okay, your go," and she was, "How do I do it?" And he's like, "I literally just explained that."
I was thinking through the person whose turn it was before me. We'd just lost gravity, and he was explaining to us how we needed to move in zero gravity, and I was thinking through the explanation. My turn's coming next. I really need to be paying attention to this because I'm going to be doing it next. But I also had no working brain. So then when it was my turn, it went, all right, so you're going to... Oh, I don't remember anything. Even though he just said it a minute ago. So yeah, that was fun. So I was very glad he was keeping track of the math.
It was
at that
literally
point. Yes.
the Y male models from Zoolander with David going, "What? I literally just explained all this." Yes.
You guys should give Savage version a try.
It would have been a little.
It's a lot more streamlined.
It would have been a little better at that point, yes. But hey, we made it through. We
You
did
can get through it normally, but if you have COVID, we suggest the Savage Worlds version.
Next time we play it, I'll warn you ahead of time if I think I'm gonna get COVID. Maybe.
That is one comment we get from a lot of the classic players is they're like, this is a lot of math. And we literally designed we've got an advanced spreadsheet, or not spreadsheet, an advanced character sheet now, that it kind of does all the math once you do it at character creation. All the stuff is kind of there. So all you need to do is look on your sheet and know where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of can be difficult because it's got like 3 pages, but it's all there, and so it kind of feeds you down through it, like your range brackets and your skill level and all that kind of stuff. So that's usually what we tell them, and I show them in the Charlie Foxtrot book. I'm like, okay, this is how it's set up, and see right here how the numbers are. That's going to be that way on the character sheet. So it kind of, once you figure that out, there you go. They're like, that's not that hard. I'm like, yeah, once you've done it a couple of times and understand it.
I don't think it was that hard either for us. I think the bigger problem for us when it came to it was new system, which is always, regardless of how hard or easy, new system is always like, wait, how's this going together? But we'd also been playing a lot of Genesis, which uses pictures on dice, not numbers. So it was going from that sort of picture style of rules where your successes and failures are all reflected by what image is on the dice, to a more traditional style, which was a bigger jump in that case. But normally it wouldn't have been that
No,
that sort of jump. We sort of made it harder for ourselves. But even saying that, it wasn't really that hard. And yeah, as long as you've got, I mean, I don't know any group that doesn't have at least one person in the group, regardless of rule set, that knows it better than everybody else. That you always go, wait, how does armor work in this?
And someone chimes in,
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and we had the two, which was good. So, but yeah, I think that's the same in any group, really.
We described the system for classic Battlelords as front loaded. There is some math, but it's almost all during character creation.
Yeah.
And then after that, like you said, it's just, oh, I got to roll below this number that's on my character sheet. There's not a lot of math for the players to do at that point.
Yeah.
I think we kept
Actually,
ending up in those weird situations like cutting the gravity and things like that, and then it's, so wait, how does that affect when I'm shooting? And it's like, oh, but there's recoil. It's an energy gun. Does that still have recoil? Hang on.
Hang on. Let's get the book.
And then the big muscly guy was like, but in 0G, does that mean I'm less encumbered now with my huge minigun? Because the 0G is taking some of the weight. Hang on, let me look.
Yep.
So what's...
I think it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I refuse.
I was only saying I think it is very helpful having both options now with the classic and the Savage Battlelords, just because people do have different play styles. We have a couple people in our group who are a little more fond of crunch, but we tend to be a little less. So our group would probably go Savage, maybe, I'm guessing, but it's good to have the option for sure, because some people are going to absolutely love, because there was even extra crunch options in Classic that I remember we did not use, but those are there for anybody who would like to implement them.
Yes, there were. And with the Savage version, we definitely pushed the over-the-top aspects of the glorious excess of Battlelords. I describe it in classic Battlelords. If you're playing an Eridanian, you jump out of the trench, sword drawn, and charge a machine gun emplacement. They're going to be pouring you out of your armor boots. With Savage Battlelords, you get the right edges, and yeah, you're doing triple backflips over there, decapitating the guy with your sword, dodging the laser fire the whole way.
I think it was a smart move, though, going Savage Worlds, because we've been looking at Deadlands, and I was looking at Deadlands Original, and there's a whole disclaimer saying, oh, you could use up to 6 or 7 full sets of dice per player, and you want to make sure you've got this and a deck of playing cards, and it's all cool, but it's a lot of extra stuff. And then they've got Savage Deadlands. But once I've bought into Savage Deadlands, I've already learned Savage for the most part. I've already learned how that plays. I've taught my players how this works. And then I go, now we have Battlelords. And they're like, oh, do we have to learn anything? Oh, yeah, a few things that are different. But overall, no. It's Savage. And that might be a good gateway for some people that might not have picked up the classic, that they might go for the Savage, because same as GURPS. That was the good thing with GURPS. It's sort of like, I bought stuff for GURPS I normally wouldn't have bought, because it was there's a new world book came in. It's like, oh, it was $25 at the time, sort of thing. So yeah, all right, because I already know how to do it and how to play it, and so I think that's a good maybe doorway into access to new customers, new gamers, new players.
Yeah, we're hoping so. And certainly when it debuted, we sold out entirely of the first run of all the Savage Battlelords books, except for the core rule book. And the only reason we didn't sell out of that is because we printed more of those.
Wow.
But at this point, it's running low too. We just successfully kickstarted the second printing of the Carnage Companion and Alliance Setting Guide, which are currently available And next year we will probably kickstart the second printing of the Savage Battlelords core rules because it was popular.
Yeah,
and I
that's
mean,
awesome.
we've got 30 years of lore, so the system's already built out, and so to bring that to a whole new group, that was a lot of fun. Especially kind of, some of the stuff we kind of had to shoehorn in, but it also allowed us to take stuff that we hadn't put in back into seventh edition, like the Kismentor, and allow it to just kind of cause chaos in Savage Worlds. So it's kind of fun.
And has it allowed you to approach things differently between the two? Like you said, with the right edges and that being over the top is not an altogether unfamiliar thing in Savage Worlds, where there's more realism in the classic. Has it resulted in a different approach to the games?
I don't think so. It's just how far you slide the slider from realistic to action movie, and the Savage version is a little more action movie, and the classic is a little more war movie. But I think at least the people I've run into play them essentially the same. Like I said, even though classic is gritty, there's that almost inevitable understanding that at some point things are going to go wrong. So people are okay with it.
So in the Orion's Guide, actually, we do have a syndicate whose front is bounty hunting, bringing back dangerous people that need to be chastised by the legal system in the appropriate way. And, you know, that's the front. The other services for the right person who's discerning and comes with an appropriately large credit account. There are options on exactly what happens in this hunt process that may be different than the judiciary gets to weigh in on things.
If you don't want to
How
wait for the legal system.
Yeah. How
Like, some
tragic
people are
that
impatient.
they died in a horrible accident on the way back to face justice.
Oh
Could
darn,
have
the
foreseen that.
shuttlecraft they were in, as it was re-entering the atmosphere, broke up into lots of little pieces.
It exploded and
These things
crashed
happen.
and then caught fire.
Good thing I
Again.
had my displacement device and wasn't in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
What a coinky dink.
Yeah.
So
Never
with
leave
that
home
30
without it.
years of lore, is there a lot of stuff you've got stacked up that you want to bring into the new edition or Savage Worlds?
Slowly, we're slowly picking through. There's some stuff that we don't want to bring back in. There's some things that we do. There's a lot of stuff that we need to bring back in, but it needs to be tweaked. And we're bringing it in slowly at this point.
Part of it's how do we package the things. So at the end of the day, we're not gifted with large quantities of funds from some kind of a lottery win or something that let us do whatever we want, whenever we want. We all have day jobs. Some of us multiple things we've got going on, kids or whatever, and so we have to be judicious with our time and our funds to pick how do we get things lined up in a way that we think will make enough sales to justify the expense of getting into it and turning that into the next book that then we have to justify, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's that never-ending cycle. We're definitely in a better shape than we started when we first started. We had about 8% of a plan. It's more of a concept.
Yeah, better than
Oh,
7%.
And now, what's that?
Better than 7%.
It is. And so we're a little more focused on what we're trying to get from each book, and we do try things. So we're not so prescriptive that we're not willing to go out on a limb. But we've had a few things that we've had minor heart palpitations on occasion with our Kickstarters going. Maybe we bet a little bit too big on this kind of a concept, and then things come through, and we're like, okay. And then those with sales really come through, we're like, okay, Charlie Foxtrot,
right.
the original, is actually the big one. We're like, I feel like this will go well. I don't know. We tried it, and it's like we made it across the top, but barely. And then it's actually from the classic, the first thing that sold out. And Savage, the core, is still in print from the first edition, but the Carnage Community and the Alliance Senate Guide both went to a second printing. So things that take off is like, okay, that works. So we watch those sales. People like things.
Right.
Oddly, his from a historical standpoint, things that barely fund on our Kickstarters sell really, really well later, and we don't know why.
Right. It's like the movie that does poorly at the cinema, but
Yeah.
suddenly becomes a cult classic,
Cult
and years later,
classic,
people
yeah.
are still watching that one, and it's made far more than other movies, but not all at once.
So we've got the Kickstarter pre-launch page is up now for Savage Charlie Foxtrot. That'll be for Savage Battlelords and Savage Worlds. That's our adventure book. And people in Savage Worlds, play Savage Worlds, are always looking for pre-made adventures and battle maps. So we got you covered. Uncle Ernie's Arm Summer Catalog is now available. So if you're looking for monsters for Savage Worlds or Battlelords, we've got you covered there. And the art in that is spectacular. It's a beautiful. The art and layout in it are amazing.
It's the best book we've done
Yeah.
Art-wise,
So-
it's amazing.
so far. Yeah.
And we just got the second printing for Carnage Companion and Alliance Setting Guide. So if you're missing those two books for Savage Worlds or you want the updated versions, they're also available.
I'll add our product roadmap. We update this roughly every 2 quarters, sometimes every quarter, sometimes every 3 quarters. It just kind of, we get to it every few months. So beyond Savage Foxtrot and reprinted Charlie Foxtrot, the Orion Cookbook, which we've been trying to get out for a bit, but other projects that are bigger take priority, and we get those out the door first. We've got a Player Archetypes book coming. We've also got a line on another, kind of the sequel to Charlie Foxtrot, working title Totally Foobar. So we're trying to get that one lined up for a little bit later. We're looking also at expanding the number of cons we go to. Traditionally, we've only gone to Gen Con because it was convenient, partly. So from an expense perspective, not much of a risk there. But we've started to look at other conventions, and so we're looking at GaryCon in the spring.
Very cool.
And I will put all the links. They'll be below in the description.
Yes. So definitely anyone watching, if you are interested in that Kickstarter, you could follow on the pre-launch page and check out the 23rd Century website for things that are in stock now, because those are also very cool.
And is there anywhere else that you exist that people should know about?
We're on most social media. If you search for Battleords, you'll find us. Our products are available on our website, 23rdcentury.net. There are also all our PDFs are on Drive Through RPG. We have
Also your game store. Yeah, your game store, you can get through distribution. Studio 2 can provide anything in the US, Canada. And we can actually support things out of the British facility we have for fulfillment. So across there in Europe, we've got you covered.
Very
if you're
cool.
an American game store owner, all our products are on Alliance. So you can pick them up through there or through Studio 2. And I don't think I missed anything. We have a very active Discord. Great place if you have questions or you're trying to get in and you want to know more about it. And we have a pretty active Facebook discussion.
I will put as many links as I can find in the description.
Wonderful.
We appreciate it.
Oh,
Well, thank
new
you.
thing that we're doing right now is we are actually on our Discord. If you decide you want to write a Battlelords adventure, we have a submission process through there now. So if you have those kind of ideas and feel like throwing it our way, let us know. If it kind of meets the criteria we're looking at, we'll include it and we'll talk to you about what you get in your name in print, and, any tchotchkes and stuff like that, and all that kind of stuff. So, that's another thing we've recently tried to do, because there is just really three of us kind of running this and working on it, and we're got jobs. So if we
We
want to
hear
keep
ya.
it rolling, we're gonna need some help. So
Absolutely.
And is
That's a
that for
great idea.
Savage Worlds or Classic? Both? One or the other?
both
Either?
both
Either.
and
Both.
Either or.
I will have to get you to Discord one because I don't have that link, but I will put that in the description.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us on. We appreciate you guys hosting us.
Anytime.